800-951-0592. This is the Stone Cold Lead Pipe lock of the week, the month, maybe the year. Gold's down 10 right now. I'm not too worried. 2033. We'll see how all of this plays out. We got jobless claims tomorrow. Let's not forget that as well. $10 liberties. Listen, it's $30 off at $11.95. And if you bought 2 10s today, that'd be $110 less than a $20 gold piece. That's insane. But if you can buy 20 of them, it's $11.90, right? $35 off, right? 2 of those, $120 less than a 20. If you can buy 50 of them, $11.85, right? And you're thinking, that's $40 a coin off the regular price. $130 if you bought two of those. $130 less than a 20. It really is incredible. It just tells you, hey, the real rich, real rich guys, whatever it is, they've bought in every 20 out there. They've bought in them all. Well, fine. Hey, you know what? I get some fractional gold and I get to pay less. Hey, I'm all on board. Now I get to pay a ton less, like a ton less. This is the opportunity presenting it to you right in your face today. 800-951-0592. Stan Druckenmiller went on to say entitlements absolutely are going to be cut. Anybody that thinks that we can afford to not cut entitlements is living in a fantasy land. Listen, this is going to be an ugly 10 years. I'm just telling you right now. We're talking about 6 months. It's going to be an ugly 10 years. Why?
I agree with him.
Because Jay Powell and the Fed made a policy mistake, plain and simple.
I agree with this 10 years thing, and I've mentioned before, Joe, it could be 20. We've had this happen before. The 25-year where the S&P is down and then doesn't come back for a generation. I think it won't be a generation this time, but you know what? If the dollar loses its reserve currency, maybe the stock market never gets back to this level, right? I mean, Japan's been in stagflationary type of situation for years. They've just been sitting there, right, Joe? They don't have the reserve currency. That's what's wrong with Japan, right?
Right. Think about it, right? Japan hasn't touched the highs that they hit in the 80s, right? Remember the 87 stock market crash? They've never been back. Never.
Mm-mm.
I hope that isn't us. I hope so. But Glenn Beck, if you go out to allamericangold.com, you can hear the clip in its entirety. He has an interesting take about your money. First of all, just like I've told you forever, you better be below that 250. Better be below it. And, of course, I'm telling you to be way below it. Right? Have what you need to have in there. But don't keep excess money there. Find a better. Gold and silver is a great place to put it. I'm just telling you that right now. But he says, just leave it in there. Stay under the 250, but leave it in there. He goes, because, hey, I don't believe that they won't honor that commitment. Now, him and this guy's partner were going back and forth. They both agree that the FDIC does not have the money. They don't. Not even close. They only have enough money. They can't even, the insurance itself covers less than 1% of the insured deposit total, right? I mean, it's not even close to having the money it should have. Now, Glenn Beck says they're going to give it to you. The problem is it's going to be so worthless, it won't matter. And so really, I guess I'm saying, we're kind of saying it's because I think they're going to give you a piece of paper saying, hey, down the road we'll give you some later. Glenn Beck says, they're just going to devalue the hell out of it. They're going to give you the 250. The problem is, he brings up Weimar Republic, right? It's not going to buy anything. And at the end of the day, you know what? I started thinking about that. I'm like, well, I wonder who's going to be right and who's going to be wrong on this. The more I thought about it, we're actually saying the same thing. Because either they give you the money, right? They give you the $250, and it doesn't buy anything. Or they essentially say, well, you know what? We're only going to let you have access to $25,000. And here's an IOU for the rest. Isn't that the same thing? Right? Well, I've got money, but I can't buy anything with it. Right? Hey, I got $250,000. They just won't let me have it. Same thing.
Yep. Yeah, Joe, I wouldn't have any money in the bank except for what I pay my bills. I don't like having money there. I'll say this. Every time this comes into my head, I never get on the air, which is everyone's seen those shows, or you know some people. I know people that they're hoarders. They fill their houses up full of stuff that they collect or they buy cheaply, right? And people usually that are not hoarders, they look, oh, what is that guy doing? He's filling his whole house up. He can't even walk through his house. He's worthless. And the thing that I always think is, well, the hoarding instinct is a good one. The person who's hoarding just doesn't have the education to understand they should be hoarding something of value that cannot take up your entire house's space. They should be hoarding things of value, especially gold and silver. Hoarding gold and silver is not a bad thing to hoard, Joe.
Yep, and listen, he had a take on that. He goes, listen, during the Weimar Republic, the preppers, they were vilified as a hoarder. You're hoarding all the food. Right? He goes, what, are you going to buy property? Well, the government can take it away from you. You know, talked about eminent domain and wind and solar power, and you know, the government can take that away. You know, he said, well, gold, you know, well, they can take that away. And he's right, they could. Right? But at least you'll get something for it, right? They're not going to, you know, give you nothing for it. The problem is the currency is going to be so devalued. I mean, what is a $10 gold piece going to be 10 years from today? Right? What's it going to be? Right? I mean, a $20 gold piece was $300. $2,500 today. That's a pretty good return. And unfortunately, I think we're going to do that same thing in the next 10 years. The problem is the jumping off point, right? Jason, it's a lot higher.
And none of the stuff that Glenn Beck's talking about will affect you as far as your savings if you've got it in gold and silver. It doesn't matter what man does with the money, Joe, as long as the gold is sitting there in your possession, right?
800-951-0592. It's a fire sale on $10 Liberties today. Jason and I coming right back. $800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour, Joe and Jason. The fire sale here on $10 Liberties, 1 through 19 at $11.95. That's $30 a coin savings. 20 to 49, $11.90. Right, 50 or more, $11.85. $40 off a coin at 800-951-0592. Yesterday, we were selling the rolls of 1921 Morgans in that 1 gram gold bar, which I was throwing in with using the F word free, which I never do. We got a couple of those left as well. They're $795. We got a few of those left if you want to pick one of those up. On top of that, we do have a couple of those left at 800-951-0592. And it's interesting, Glenn Beck's comments, because his partner was saying exactly what I was. I don't buy it. I don't believe it. I don't think they can do it. How can they do it, right? Where's the money going to come from? And, of course, well, they can just make it up. Well, they really can't. That would be Janet Yellen. But I'm sure, you know what, Jason, he could be right. I mean, Janet Yellen, she's another one of these dangerous people out there. I mean, could it be that they would just say, hey, let's blow up the national debt by, and again, what would all of this stuff be worth? I don't know, but by, we know we got $10 trillion in insured deposits, 3, 4, 5 trillion. I mean, could we see that happen overnight? I mean, it's possible. I'm thinking about, gosh, how little it would be worth if they did it, right? Think about where gold is going to be. And, we talked about commercial real estate, Wolf Richter, Wolf Street, another great article, these office towers and what are they worth? And in San Francisco now, another one of these banks is throwing up the red flag, 75% off. And Jason, still no takers. I mean, this is something where, again, this is a very predictable thing. And I know everybody thinks everything's, well, we got the bank thing, but, we've kind of managed through it, and everything seems okay, right? I went out to eat last night, and there was people there, and, I don't see anything horribly happen. Jason, it's coming. But like you said, this is a little slower moving, but make no mistake about it. As Stan Druckenmiller said, there's a lot more bodies to come.
Agree with that. It's happening right in front of us. It's who's going to want to buy assets from a failing institution that probably you have a whole lot of the same stuff on your books, right? If you've already got bad stuff on your books, yeah, you want to help out the system as a whole, I guess. You want your industry to make it because the banking industry looks really bad right now. But you can't afford to buy more of the bad assets you have on your books because that's essentially what's going on, Joe. I'd say most, if not all, these banks have the same bad assets on their books. Who wants to load up on that stuff, right?
Yeah, and again, it's a tough situation because it literally is for a lot of these people, you just get adjusted right out. The ability to refinance. And this is what I think the common people, we don't understand. Because normally when we buy something like a house or a car, right? Maybe you own the suite your company is in or the building your company is in. Maybe you own that. We do it where, hey, 30 years from now, 15 years from now, whatever it may be, the building's paid off. Right? The house, if we'd ever dipped it, would be paid off. We're paying down principal when we make a payment. That's not how they do it. Right? They essentially do hey, we're going to just pay interest only. 7 years, we just refi it, right? Because, well, all we've done is print debt and print money and print money, print money, print money, print money. Well, based on that, hey, we're just devaluing dollars. So, hey, over a course of 5 to 7, it's going to be worth more, right? Because, well, the dollar just doesn't buy as much, right? Inflation, right? So it'll be fine. Well, guess what? Go ahead, Jason.
Go ahead, Joe. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, for the first time in 40 years, the money supply is shrinking. And guess what? A lot of these buildings now, they're 30, 40, 50 years old. And, well, God, I like the new pretty building right down the street. I don't want that old building. I got to put, not only can I not refine, I got to put hundreds of millions of dollars in it just to bring it up to compete with all the others. Jason, this is a train wreck that everybody should see. And once again, if you're relying on Jay Powell to see anything, like Stan Druckenmiller said, you're relying on the wrong guy.
And there's a point that I haven't made in a while, but you were talking about, you make a payment, you pay down the principal. Well, we're in a debt money system. So you might be saying, well, where's all this money going? Where are these billionaires putting their money? It's quite possible. Like, let's just say you use like a Robert Kiyosaki, and I don't think he would do this because he's sitting really good. But if you don't got a really good place to invest your money, you pay down that debt. So you have smaller interest payments. If you have nowhere else to invest it that you're safe, you can take that money out of the banks. You can pay down your debt. And that takes money out of the system, Joe. When you pay down your principal, that money disappears because it's a debt money system. More debt, more money. Less debt, less money, right, Joe? So maybe these billionaires are battening down the hatches, so to speak.
800-951-0592. Joe and Jason wrapping it up. Final segment on a Wednesday. $800-951-0592. $10 Liberties 1 through 19, $11.95. 20 to 49, $11.90. 50 or more, $11.85 at 800-951-0592. The inflation number headline came in softer. The month-over-month number came in a little hotter, so it had a little bit for both out there and wherever. And again, listen, this is how it's going to be. I'm telling you right now. Jay Powell, the wrong man for the job, but we're stuck with him. This crisis that's coming has nothing to do with interest rates. And well, it does because they raised them, right? If they had kept them at zero, then maybe this wouldn't have happened. But outside of that, the problems are going to persist. There's no easy way out. I hope you're preparing. I really do. This is a huge opportunity today to pick up some fractional gold at a really hot price, and I hope you do it at 800-951-0592. And one way or the other, listen, they're either going to take a big chunk of your wealth that's in the bank, or they're going to do what Glenn Beck said. We're just going to give it all to you. The problem is $250,000. That may buy a car. By the way, did you see that? New car price, all-time record high now. The average new car price, $48,000. And where does it end? Right? Where does that end? 48. That's just the end. That's not even a nice one.
You know, Joe, he had to raise the interest rates. Can you imagine where the inflation would be if he didn't raise it at all, right? Just imagine what inflation would be. How much would that average car price be if there was no rate hikes in the last year and a half? Would that be an $80,000 car? I mean, it would have just ran roughshod. And I think you're right. And Glenn Beck is onto it. I think they want to inflate their way out of the value of our money. They don't need to physically take it. They can inflate us out of our money. That they're going to count on it. I think that's why they haven't taken a sharper measure to really get the inflation down dramatically. I think it's coming back, Joe, and I think they kind of want it to come back. Their new system's going to come in, and they're going to, quote unquote, save against the inflation with their digital currency. I think they're going to manipulate this whole thing, Joe, and we're going to watch it in real time. And I think inflating the value out of your money. I think Glenn Beck is onto it. I think there's a lot of intelligence in what you brought to the air, Joe.
Yeah, and again, I think it's that's almost scarier, right? When you think about how big the problem will be. You know, Stan Druckenmiller saying, "Listen, this is where I sit right now. I don't think stocks are going to be higher than they are now 10 years from today."
Yeah.
These are things that you have to pay attention to. And the answer really is, think about it, saying, "Listen, what are these people?" We have to cut these entitlements. Government spending has to go down. The problem is government spending has been a runaway freight train, and of course the debts are a runaway freight train to go with it, Jason.
Yeah, and I think we're heading for another type of bankruptcy. I mean, we had the Great Depression, the stock market crash. They took gold out of the money. That was essentially a bankruptcy around the time of World War II. The market was down for 28 years. And then the late 60s, going into the early 70s, what do we have? Another bankruptcy. Took us off the gold standard, right, Joe? Market was down for 25 years. I mean, I don't know. It seems like the same thing's happening right now, Joe.
Feels very, very similar. 800-951-0592. Jason and I